This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, water everywhere, but how are you going to treat? Seriously, if you have water and weeds on your land, you'll want to stay tuned. And this weird, wild winter is going to affect more than our moods. And do your plants have rhythm? All that and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Hi, welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Well, what started out to be a slow week sure got interesting quickly. On Tuesday, we got word of a new blight that might affect Illinois trees, but we also found out something even more concerning to Illinois farmers, a new regulation that could affect how you manage your ground, and most of us haven't even heard about it. We'll be talking to Dave Shiley in just a bit, but first, let's catch you up on the latest ag news with Monica Becker. Monica?
Thanks, Fred. I'm Monica Becker. We have a local man heading up a big state agency. Bob Fleiter of Mount Zion has been named the director of the Illinois Department of Agriculture. Fleiter is a former mayor and trustee of Mount Zion and a four-term state representative in the Illinois House, where he served on the House Agriculture and Conservation Committee. Governor Quinn, when making the announcement, said, "It is important that our agriculture agency is led by someone who understands the key role of agribusiness in our economy." Fleiter is also a Panther alum, earning his bachelor's degree in journalism in 1979. There has been a lot of talk about additional corn acreage this spring, and some agribusinesses are suggesting that you decide pretty soon what you're going to need. Farmers applied an all-time high level of anhydrous ammonia, phosphorus, and potassium last spring, and if demands for corn continues to be high, experts predict there will be even more corn acreage this spring. Ammonia suppliers are suggesting that farmers should consider locking in on some of their fertilizer needs as soon as they determine their spring planting plans. According to the Illinois Department of Agriculture, fertilizer prices have come down from the peak prices last fall, but warn that prices could go either way. So good luck guessing. And in the as if we need something else to be worried about category, experts in fruit-bearing plants warn that due to the mild winter, fruit trees, berry plants, and vineyards are less prepared than usual for a late frost. Basically, what the scientists are saying is that because of the mild temperatures, the plants don't know what to do if it gets cold suddenly. In Indiana, Purdue agronomists say that Indiana peach trees and grapevines have accumulated enough hours of winter rest that buds will begin growing with the next extended period of 50-plus weather. Purdue's Peter Hurst says that's bad news because we don't want them to start growing yet. You get one shot at budding, and that's your crop for the year. So let's hope the weather doesn't nip the crop in the bud. A local chapter of Farm Safety for Just Kids has won a national award for their community outreach. The Illini Farm Safety for Just Kids chapter, headed by Amy Rademacher, won the Professional Chapter of the Year award. The Urbana group logged 34 events, reaching over 6,700 children and family members. Farm Safety for Just Kids considers volunteerism, professionalism, and membership in deciding on the designations. And speaking of volunteers making a difference, the Shelby County Young Farmers will be hosting a celebrity grocery race as part of Food Checkout Week. The celebrity shoppers will have 5 minutes to shop for food products that contain Illinois corn, soybeans, or wheat in the ingredient label. The event will take place in Shelbyville on February 25th and starts at 11 a.m. The items that the shoppers choose will be purchased by the young farmers and donated to a local food bank. Over the years, the group has donated more than $10,000 in food products to food pantries in Shelby County. And if all that talk of food is making you dizzy, maybe you should consider the Eye on Diabetes program being offered by the U of I Extension. The 4 sessions are designed for anyone interested in preventing, managing, and improving diabetes care, as well as your overall well-being. The sessions are on Tuesdays in April at the Lifespan Center in Charleston. Check the local extension website for details on how to register. And that about does it for this week. This has been Monica Becker.
This week, Illinois Governor Pat Quinn proclaimed 1,000 Canker's disease to be a viable threat to Illinois' black walnut trees. 1,000 Canker disease is a highly contagious invasive fungus carried by the walnut twig beetle, and it attacks black walnut trees, of course, which Illinois has a ton of. So when there's something weird and it don't look good, who are you going to call? We call Dave Shiley from the U of I Ag Extension Office. He's a U of I Ag educator, and he's here all the time whenever I have questions about fun stuff going on. So Dave, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, now what is the 1,000 Canker disease and why should we care?
Well, it's a fungus that, like you had mentioned, it's transferred by the walnut twig beetle. And it can kill the tree, basically. It's very similar to other insects we have that can burrow into the phloem, or the food conducting tissue. It blocks that. This fungus then grows and blocks the flow of nutrients, food in the tree, and so it dies gradually, but will end up dying.
So why haven't we heard of this before?
Well, it's been out west.
Okay.
It's an insect. The insect is native to the western part of the United States, and that's where the disease was originally identified. For years, they thought this dieback in the walnut trees out in states like Utah and Colorado were from drought. A lot of drouthy years out there, and began looking a little bit closer and discovered this fungus.
So this fungus is transmitted by the beetle. How does the beetle get around?
Well, the beetle, is going to fly, and so it can't fly to Illinois, obviously, from Oregon. So it's going to be transferred like the emerald ash borer underneath the bark of, in this case, black walnut.
Okay.
And so and right now is not a treatment for this disease.
So you described this as dieback. What does that look like to the average property owner?
Yeah, so you're going to look up in the tree and you're going to notice not the entire crown dying at one time, but a branch here, a branch there. The leaves are going to wilt. Maybe the buds are not going to flush this spring. But you're going to notice a gradual, kind of like we see in ash trees, with we refer to as ash decline.
Okay.
A branch here, a branch there are going to die.
So does it look like, can it be mistaken for something else?
Well, environmental stress.
Okay.
You might see that occurring. There are some native borers that might cause it to die back. There's lots of reasons that one particular branch might die.
Okay, so it's coming from out west. Is it anywhere near Illinois now?
The closest that's been confirmed is in Tennessee.
Okay.
It's also kind of jumped across out to Pennsylvania. This last fall, it was identified in Pennsylvania and also in Virginia. So certainly, beginning to surround the state.
So a lot of these Midwestern states have a lot of black walnut trees, right?
Yes, and now I think Illinois is ranked 5th in the United States for the number of black walnut that are growing here. Economically, we're looking at $1 million, I think $13 million
Whoa.
in income to tree growers, tree producers in Illinois annually, and so economically, it's an important tree species. So,
I'm a layperson. That's why I talk to you guys about this stuff. But it seems to me there's been more and more evasive diseases and pests coming into our state. We can't just tell them to stay the heck out of here. Is it me, or is it really happening that way?
Well, sure. We live, we're a mobile society, right? So a lot of these things, including black walnut, the 1,000 cankers can get moved by people. We move plants. We see a nice plant we want to have in our garden, so we haul it from wherever, or we order it on the internet.
Right.
All of a sudden we're growing a plant that's native to Europe in our backyard.
Right.
And it does well here. It doesn't have any you know,
Yep.
natural enemies and sometimes takes over.
Kudzu is
Right.
chinks.
Exactly. So, and so in the case of Thousand Cankers, you know, the only way right now to control that movement is to put some restrictions on the movement of black walnut.
Okay. So if you suspect you might have something funky wrong with your black walnut tree, what should you do?
Well, you can call you could take a sample and send it to the plant clinic. You can call the University of Illinois Plant Clinic or go online. The plant clinic has an excellent website. They've got a Facebook page as well as a Twitter account so you can kind of see what's going on.
Okay.
They're going to do some surveillance this summer again, like they did last year.
Okay.
Didn't find 1,000 cankers in Illinois.
And let's hope they don't again.
Hope again, yep. And so they can tell you how to collect that sample and where to send that.
Well, as we were talking beforehand, I mentioned, is there, so is this something a pesticide can help with or whatever? And you just started shaking your head about pesticides. What's new about pesticides?
Well, I do a lot of advising and get a lot of questions related to pond management.
Okay.
And we're getting to that season where,
you want your pond area to look nice. Yeah,
Put
yeah.
a little copper sulfate, which is a contact herbicide basically. But the newest thing is that we've got some additional regulations to follow related to the Clean Water Act.
Okay. Oh, really? What sort of new regulations do we need to worry about?
Well, there's a new permitting related to the Clean Water Act. There's something called an NPDES, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Okay, is there going to be a quiz on this later?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So,
if there's multiple letters in the title, it's a little bit scary. What does NPDES mean, do, and why should we worry about it?
Yeah, so the important thing is that when you're going to, related to the Clean Water Act, that the NPDES permits were required to control discharge from like a factory.
Okay, right, a sewer system, a water treatment plant, that sort of. Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And so related to that, trying to keep the waters of our state clean.
Right.
Right. So and in the past are things like ponds and streams and aquatic vegetation management related to that, control anyway, have been exempt from this law.
Okay, so if you had a farm pond of some sort and it drained into a drainage ditch that drained in the local creek, up until today that was exempt?
Right, it was exempt from getting a permit.
Okay.
All right. So the permit, it sounds very complicated, but the Illinois EPA, following mandates from the U.S. EPA, of course, has tried to make the process as simple as they can.
Okay.
I know it sounds crazy, but on their website, they have a link that will take you directly to filling out the paperwork to file what's called a notice of intent. So if you intend to apply or might intend to apply some herbicides to your pond, and we never know what kind of growing season we're going to have with pond aquatic vegetation. But if you intend to apply, or even if you're gonna hire someone to apply, then you need to get online and complete the application for an NPDES permit, and it's called a notice of intent.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So if you have a pond and you want to cut back the cattails, or you want to take care of the algae bloom, if you want it to look pretty and not stink all summer long, you should go online to the website, and we'll have the address here eventually, and apply for the NPDES.
Right.
Okay, and that gives you they'll give you a permit just by filling that out?
Well, they're going to once you file the notice of intent on that website, then there's a waiting period.
Okay.
So they're going to post that you have applied for an NPDES permit for 14 days on the state website. After that, and that's what our public entities do, or
Right.
a factory might do.
Right.
Same kind of process.
Right.
But now it applies to you as a pond owner. So then after 14 days, then they get the process going, and from the time you apply till you get a permit, it takes about 30 days.
Okay, so if you want to apply, cut back the cattails on your pond,
Correct.
you have to apply now, wait at least 14 days for public comment,
Right.
and then wait another basically 15 days if nobody complains, and you get your permit. So you can. So if you want to do it in the spring, you better get going.
Right, right. So, you know, typically people call me in July, June, or even May. You know, things are starting to get, you know, we've got a warm, we've already had one question regarding algae growth because of
Okay.
the warm winter. So, you know, it's going to be too late. You're going to be waiting a month to get your permit.
Okay.
Even if you're going to hire someone. And this does apply, you know, even though this pond is on private property. If it has an outlet, the water
Okay.
goes out through a spillway of some kind, either a pipe or a concrete spillway, and goes into a ditch, then that pond is connected to the waters of Illinois.
Whoa.
The
Now-
only one of the exceptions would be these borrow pits, that if they don't have any kind of connection,
Okay.
but there are the University of Illinois Extension pesticide safety staff have done a real good job working with Illinois EPA to put together a fact sheet
Okay.
that I think I would encourage anybody that might think, oh, do I need to apply, go to that, and read that fact sheet, because it takes this 30-page document and simplifies it in terms of hitting, you know, and giving some examples. Do I need a permit or not?
Right. So you were saying beforehand that, you know, homeowners associations might need these. If you have a cantankerous neighbor and you don't apply for this, they could cause problems. So, you know, when in doubt, check out the website, make the application, and cross your fingers, right?
Right. The homeowner associations, you know, a lot of them hire that aquatic vegetation control done by a company. And they have two options. They can apply for the permit themselves, or they can have the company that applies apply for the permit. But they still need to be planning ahead, because the time in which it takes to get this permit, need to begin doing your homework right now.
And the fines are relatively steep, right?
Right. This is a federal requirement since it's related to the Clean Water Act. So the violation fee can be up to $32,000 a day.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
it's really important, you know, to take this
ouch.
seriously. Yeah,
So,
right.
especially if you have a cantankerous neighbor, get the permit, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, Dave, we started out with 1,000 canker. We ended up with a big pain in the... Anyway, thank you very much. Well, with all the talk about how the winter is affecting fruit trees and just about everything else we got going on, this may be a good time to explore why a cold winter might not be so horrible after all, especially when it comes to our soil. Cameron Craig is here with this week's Under the Four Rivers Sky.
Long-term weather forecasting can be tricky and equal to playing the lottery. Last October, I presented the winter outlook for December, January, and February, stating that this would be a cold and snowy season. However, nature had a different opinion. With the above normal temperatures and a lack of snow across central Illinois, the land will not be ready for the upcoming planting season. Tonight, I discussed with fellow geographer Chris Langen some of the issues that pose a problem for preparing for the planting season.
Right now in east central Illinois, in terms of how the lack of snow on the ground and the moisture in the soil will affect agriculture next spring and into the summer, really isn't playing that big of a role. What's playing a bigger role is the lack of cold temperatures that we haven't seen this winter. East central Illinois right now is about 7 to 9 degrees above average with respect to temperature, and it's really that increase in temperature that has the biggest implications with what could happen in the spring and summer with next year's crops. Farmers really like to see in the wintertime temperatures not only in the air but also influencing on the soil profile temperatures at least in the top 8 to 12 inches, drop well below freezing for an extended period of time. This does a few things. A lot of farmers in this area, especially just north of here in Charleston, may apply nitrogen fertilizer in the after harvest to help increase nitrogen levels for spring plantings. If temperatures stay in between, or at least below 50 and not quite to freezing, what that allows to happen are bacteria in the soil that feast on nitrogen to break that ammonium down into nitrate. And if the ammonium is allowed to break down into nitrate nitrogen, that is a form of nitrogen that does not cling well to soil particles, or it's also not very easily absorbed by the organic matter once the crops are planted, because nitrates leach very easily through the soil profile. So if temperatures remain above freezing, that bacterial activity is allowed to remain active, and thus enhancing the amount of nitrification that's happening throughout the soil profile.
During a typical winter, the ground will freeze to an average of 13 to 16 inches below the surface. However, the soil for this winter did not freeze at all until February 11th, when it finally froze the upper 6 inches. Not only does this lack of significant frozen soil cause problems for preparing the soil for planting, warmer temperatures allow pests to increase in population that could cause problems for yields.
The other thing that temperatures that don't drop below freezing can do is it can affect pest control in the springtime. Pests such as Japanese beetles, rootworms, especially around here, corn borer larvae that find themselves in the wintertime maybe 8 to 12 inches below the Earth's surface during their wintering time period, tend not to be killed off if those freezing temperatures don't reach deep enough within the soil profile. So much of the state right now, the 8-inch minimum soil temperature still hasn't reached below 32 degrees. So many of those pests and larvae have not been killed off yet this winter.
So what is on the mind of the farmer during this particular winter?
Farmers tend to be, not unlike many people, somewhat superstitious when it comes to weather. If they see a very odd winter weather scenario playing out like this one, where you have very little snow cover, very little precipitation, at least from what they can perceive as precipitation in the form of snow. But when they see any kind of odd weather scenario playing out, they tend to think, well, what's next? What is this spring or next summer going to bring when it comes to some more odd weather scenarios taking place?
Well, sorry to disappoint, but this week we don't have any shepherding bunnies or cow milking prisoners. But are your plants getting the rest they need? Science Daily reports that Rice University biologists have found that plants can use circadian rhythms to their benefit, including fighting off hungry insects. Scientists have known for a while that plants have an internal clock that allows them to measure time regardless of light. You know, the leaves follow the sun during the day, but at night they reset the leaves back to the east. But now researchers have found that plants can use their circadian rhythms to anticipate when insects might feed on them. And some plants even produce materials that make them less appealing during peak feeding times. The material is called chasmonate and is genetically produced by almost all plants. But at peak times, some plants produce this material more when the bugs are around, and when the bugs aren't bugging them, they produce less. So I have a question. What if the plants are on daylight savings time and the insects are on? Oh, never mind. Well, that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, tell your plants to get their rest, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. You, not your plants. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report. You know, on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we're always looking for news that is of interest to the agricultural and the rural communities. Every week we scour the local papers, the state and national websites. We talk to lots and lots of people every day looking for information that will help and or entertain you. There is one more way that we can find out the latest news, topics, trends, and events that are part of your life. You can tell us. We'd love to hear from you about what's going on in your town, on your farm, or even on your neighbor's farm. If you got a topic you'd like us to talk about, let us know. I probably won't know the answer, but I probably know people who do. Please let us know what is happening. You can call us at 217-581-7245. You can email us at weiu@weiu.net. We're on Facebook at WEIU TV, Public Broadcast Station. And if you tweet, we're on Twitter at WEIU1. So now that you got our number, don't be a stranger.